Welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are new to our channel, we're Jeff and Amy, and we are building a debt-free off-grid homestead here in North Idaho. And so there's been a lot that has gone into the build so far. We've been working on this. This is our third year. We're going into our third year, build season.
Yeah.
We're wrapping up the third build season that we've had here on the property. We've been doing weekly videos for a long time now. We've come to the realization that we're doing projects faster than we can put videos out. And so at this pace, we're never going to get caught up, and we really want to get caught up. And this is a perfect opportunity because the projects that we have in the hopper, projects we have video for, aren't really standalone videos that we can make interesting or creatively enough to keep your attention or even ours while we're editing. Like, this footage is real dry. So what we want to do is put together a video this week where we are just kind of rapid fire talking to you about the things that we've done, showing you little clips of those things, and just getting them out of the way so you know what we've done without having to watch a whole video on running network cable in the house.
No, there's a lot of little details that go into all of these projects that are difficult to create a video around. So, yeah, we had a ton of odds and ends to finish up, some things to do before winter, like we needed to cut more firewood and do a few more, I don't know, firewood was basically our big prep. How many cords of wood do you think we cut this year?
We cut, split, and stacked right around 8 cords of wood for the winter. But what's curious about our wood, Amy?
Okay, well, since we're currently still living in the bus at this very moment, we have a tiny wood stove in the bus, which is super cute and adorable, and we love it. But it takes like 7.5-inch pieces of wood. As to where our wood stove in the house, which is much bigger, takes 20 inches, even up to 24 inches of wood. So
that's a huge contrast in log size that we're cutting. So
yeah, so it goes much faster to cut and split 20 inches of wood than it does a bunch of 7.5 pieces. So,
and it looks very silly when you go from cutting 20-inch rounds to 7.5-inch rounds.
Yeah, but it needs to be done, and the wood stove in the bus has been pretty much working around the clock to keep us warm because it's been really cold.
Yeah, we haven't been over freezing for about 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
So
miraculously, the pipes have not frozen in the bus yet. We are on walking that fine line of when we have to winterize the bus, and trying to not do that as long as possible. But I'm not entirely sure how our pipes haven't frozen. Honestly, it is miraculous, actually.
There were a surprising amount of things on our punch list to do before we could hang the first sheet of drywall.
Right. The reason we needed to hang drywall may seem obvious, but all of our heat that we were producing from the wood stove was just going straight out the roof vent, basically.
Yep, right out the ridge vent.
Yeah, so we had no insulation in the vault. We had no ceilings on, so we couldn't have insulation in the ceiling because we were going to do blown in. So we needed to get the drywall on the ceiling so that we could do the blown in and start trapping the heat in the house. And that made a huge difference. So
the soffits were open, the ridge vent was open, so we were losing all of our heat. We had wind rushing through the building. So the first thing that we tackled was insulating the vault.
yeah.
So insulating the vault, we didn't do blown in because it's hard to have blown in stick on a sloped surface. So we put in R30 faced batt insulation in the vault to try to start keeping the heat that we were generating. So every little step that we took along the way did a little bit better at keeping the heat.
It inched our degrees up from like 40. It was pretty much, we couldn't get it over 40 to like, and it's like, oh, we reached 50 degrees. It was so exciting.
It was a monumentous day.
It's like,
but it was nice when we were doing the insulation in the ceiling, in the vault, you could feel the heat being trapped in that vault.
Yeah, you definitely.
It was like 55 up there and roasting. Once we were able to trap the heat in the vault, we started working on our plan to move that heat to some of the back rooms. Take a walk with me for a minute. So it's nice and warm out here with the wood stove, but as we start putting sheetrock on the walls, these back rooms, especially these bathrooms, aren't gonna get a lot of heat. So one thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put in an air circulator, which is going to pull warm air from the peak of the vault and pump it into these back rooms, the 2 bathrooms and the master bedroom and the guest room, so that they can get some heat from the wood stove without having doors open all the time. So this is the box we built to install our fan in. Because of this center web of the truss, we weren't able to have it completely open, but we're just gonna have the fan back behind the truss and it should still move plenty of air. We now have our fan installed. It's blowing this direction, so it's going to take the hot air from the vault and pump it into this space. We'll then mount our manifold here that has our 4 ducts that go out to the 4 rooms. And we have our fan plugged into this outlet, which is controlled by our speed controller down in the main floor. All right, now we just need to secure that box so it doesn't fall off. So to attach this plenum to our wood frame, we're gonna just do screws. Glue would be the easiest, but I wanna be able to change that fan if it ever dies. So just putting these screws into the foam will anchor it. They obviously don't hold on very well to the foam, so I'll then put zip tape over the top of them to keep them in place. That's how we hold our plenum in place. Once we finish this wall, we'll place this grill over this fan, and there's also a filter built into it. So it'll filter the air that we're blowing through those back rooms. We don't have our fan speed controller wired in fully yet, so we're gonna go ahead and test our fan system by just running an extension cord up here and plug the fan in. Let's see how much airflow we get at the registers.
I see it. There's movement. Cool. So the next thing we did to retain our heat was installed all the baffles.
I know you've noticed that we have big open areas in our soffits. So we're gonna take care of that now. We're gonna install these DuraVent baffles, which are going to allow airflow in from the soffits up into the attic space and also allow us to blow in insulation as deep as we want to get our R value that we're trying to achieve. So the blocking is just going to remain open because when we enclose the soffits, that will all be an enclosed space that will allow air to come in from outside, past the Dura vent into the attic space, and on up out of our ridge cap vent that we installed earlier. The baffle just slides in between the two trusses. And a couple staples hold it in place until the insulation is up against it.
And then we insulated the walls.
If you've been watching our channel for any amount of time during our framing process, you might have noticed that our headers look a little funny. They've got this shelf, they've got the gap there. I think what they're called are North Dakota headers. And that's where we have a double 2x12 with a flat 2x6 below it. And then that allows us to fill this void space with insulation. So that's what we're gonna do today. We have 2-inch rigid foam insulation cut to fit. That's gonna slide right in there. We're gonna put the silver side facing out just for consistency. Perfect. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna cap that with 7/16 OSB, and that will bring us out flush with our framing. That way we have a surface to drywall up against as well as to screw through to secure that foam in place. And now our header is flush with the framing and it's insulated.
And we insulated the floor.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising how much of a difference insulating the floor made.
Yeah, that was a big difference.
I liked it a lot better than insulating the walls because they were all the same width.
Yes.
We had a couple lengths that we cut, but using the insulation holders.
Yeah, they're like it's basically like a wire that is a little bit longer than your joist space. And so you put the insulation in and you push your wire up and it kind of arcs and holds the insulation where it's supposed to be. So that went really quickly, actually. I mean, it maybe took us maybe like 3 hours to insulate the full floor.
Yeah, so I guess the floor would be 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And so it went really quick.
It did.
We used R19 unfaced insulation in the floor.
It's actually, yeah.
We could have fit, it was faced, wasn't it?
It was faced.
But we could have fit more.
We could have.
We could have fit R30 in the floor.
Right.
But, you know, weighing out the pros and cons of that, the cost difference is huge.
Yeah.
Between R19 and R30.
And for probably a few degrees of difference, it didn't seem, at least for us, other people may choose to do that, but at least for us, it didn't seem worth the cost. As we're trying to make our financial or our house budget stretch as far as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to make those choices. So others may choose to do a thicker insulation in their floor, but we chose R19.
Yeah, ideally, I would have loved to spray foam the entire house.
Sure.
But seeing as I haven't ever bought a lottery ticket, I'm probably not going to win the lottery anytime soon. R19 is going to be plenty adequate
Yeah.
in the floors. We've got R21 in the walls, and we have an R30 plus in the ceilings.
Yeah. So far, I think we're pretty well insulated.
We are.
So what was the next thing we had to accomplish before ceiling could go on?
Well, we needed a way to attach the ceiling drywall all the way around the rooms. So the next thing we're moving on to is putting in our blocking for our drywall and wall stabilization. So that's going to stabilize the top of our interior walls, tying them to the trusses. It'll give us something to screw into at the ceiling before our wall panels push up against the ceiling panels.
Close.
The other thing we did was we installed the tub and shower surrounds. So in our other video, back when we installed the rough-in plumbing and sewer lines, you saw that we installed the bathtub and the shower pan because we needed those in place to run the sewer lines from. And so before we did drywall, we had to install those surrounds.
We did.
So we're here in the guest bathroom and we're working on installing the bathtub surround. So we've got all of our blocking in, we've got the tub in and leveled, and now we're going to prep the walls the rest of the way to install the tub surround. Sill plate gasket on these back, and what these do is these will cushion the surround so it doesn't rattle or anything else. Now our guest bathroom shower surround is all done. We'll just have to put our trim on. When we're at that point, we'll do a shower curtain rod on this one instead of a door, and then we're ready for showers.
The other thing we had to do was secure all of the PEX lines that were
That's right.
going up in our ceiling. Make sure they weren't going to be, flopping around with all the water going through them.
Well, we wanted to hold them down.
Yeah.
Underneath
Underneath
the insulation.
Yes. Yeah.
Some of them, just by their natural arc, were higher than the
Sure.
top of the insulation. So we wanted to pull those down so that they were as close to the heated space as possible, and then put that R30 insulation above them.
Right.
And so that was just a quick and easy task, but something that had to be done before we put in the insulation in the attic.
Yeah.
You're filming the most awkward one.
Called real life.
Yeah.
We also had to create an attic access so that we were actually able to go up into the space and do all this, blown in insulation. So that was a pretty simple project.
Our blown-in insulation is going to be at a minimum 13 inches deep. So we want to make sure that our dam is taller than 13 inches, which it is. The insulation dam is now done. This is going to stop the blown-in insulation from falling into the house if we open up the hatch.
We also decided to do speakers throughout the whole house.
Yeah, this is the perfect time when all the studs are open,
Yes.
all the ceilings are open. Would we want speakers
In the house.
in the house?
Yeah. So we decided yes, we would. And so we had to run all of our speaker wire to one central location where the receiver would be.
Right.
And so that was a fairly involved process with Jeff up in the trusses, which we don't have footage of. And me.
We have footage, but all you see is my feet. And so it's
me
not
running around and getting speaker wire from various places and bringing it all to that one location. But I'm actually pretty excited about that. That will be nice.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, and we'll be able to listen to music and Christmas music all through the house, and that will be cool.
Yeah.
So.
Speaker wire off the list. It's hard to mark that when I'm holding the camera. Getting the list done.
We also.
We had to do all the rough-in electrical. That's
Yes.
the biggest thing we haven't
Yeah.
even talked about yet.
Yeah.
So, rough-in electrical is one of the things that's very boring. It's a lot of just pulling wires from the powerhouse. In the powerhouse, we have our main breaker panels that supply power from our power system, our off-grid power system, to the entire property. So we have power going to the shop, we have power going to the main house, we have power going to the kids' future homes. So a lot of things are happening in that point. And so we had to bring all of our home runs of power to the powerhouse. So we didn't want to have too many devices on each breaker. So the first thing that we did was run around and install all of our switch boxes and outlet boxes around the house. Next thing we're going to do is install our light fixture boxes where we want them, and then we'll start running wire. Marking our lighting layout on the floor is much easier than trying to string tape measures across a room to find center. But with the laser, we're able to find our exact center of our lighting box where we want it in the room. The next step in our rough-in electrical is to install our light transformer box that will power these LED can lighting. And these are meant for angled ceilings where they can rotate, angle, and we can aim them for a very extreme vault. They could even be on the wall if we wanted them to. But we're not installing the lights, we're just installing the boxes. In order to do that, we need to know where the lights are going to go. So we have our marks on the ground directly below where the lights are going to go. And then we'll put the laser up, and that'll show us on the trusses where to mark to put our boxes, and we'll measure where the crosshatch is, where the light's going to go, and we'll leave a mark on our truss that says where that's going to go. All right, so we've got our laser here. I'm going to mark at our 42 inches plumb, and then I'm going to measure for my cross which looks like it's just a hair over 3.5. So I'm gonna write 3 5/8 and which direction it is from the truss. That way, when we have all of our insulation in and we're putting up our pine, we'll know which direction to drill our hole for the light.
Okay.
I'm gonna put my Romex into the light box, and then we'll mount the box to the truss. So now at this location, we're gonna send wire across the room to the light boxes over there, and we're gonna send another wire down towards the sliding glass door for those lights. Keeping up with the codes, we had to limit how many outlets. You can't put 50 outlets on one breaker. So we had to have many home runs back there, and then also trying to divide the house into an organized manner.
Sure, right.
So you don't have an outlet in the bedroom and in the kitchen on the same breaker.
Right, trying to figure out logically what makes sense for what things to be on what circuit or what breaker. So yeah, that was a lot of just kind of thinking through the process as we went, and that kind of stuff. But
yeah, so we didn't get a lot of footage of the rough-in electrical, but we'll show more footage when we actually are making up the receptacles after the drywall is hung.
So what are some outside things we did that were kind of waiting to be done, even though we were wanting to move forward and work in the house?
We had to burn some burn piles. Yeah, so winter is here, and so now it's the time to safely burn. So one of the biggest things we have to burn are the burn piles from the summer's logging operations.
Yeah, which was mostly up at the kids' area.
Today we are burning the burn pile that will make my backyard feel bigger.
Absolutely.
That was the land we cleared this year, or this summer.
Yeah, so Madeline and I went up. Amy was sick that day, so she got to miss the burn piles. She was sad to not be there for the fires, because burning burn piles are always very satisfying.
They are, actually.
When you can feed the fire all day and end up with a nice clean area.
Yeah.
So we burned the burn pile that was right in front of Madeline's house, and it turned out real well.
Yeah.
So over a couple days, we got that burned down, started a bunch of additional piles, kind of cleaning up the forest floor, removing the probably 50 years of debris that settled on the forest floor.
It looks amazing.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
And we're excited to continue to expand that project, thinning out the rest of our property, because it's really unmanaged, unruly, and needs a lot of attention.
It does.
That we don't have time to do now, but over the years, we'll just kind of keep working on it and maintaining what we've done.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure next spring we'll have more branches that have fallen on the forest floor.
Yeah.
But also, it's exciting to get that area opened up.
Yeah.
So we can see what actually grows on the forest floor. We've had such a sterile forest floor here because the canopy has blocked all the sunlight.
Right.
And so getting that opened up, getting some things growing underneath will be nice.
We also had to pour Madeline's footer.
What day is it today, Amy?
Concrete day.
Cue music.
The sun's beating down, but we won't break. We sweat on our brows, we're wide awake. Blueprints in hand, dreams in our sights. Concrete's pouring, pushing through the heights. Together we rise, we will be beat. Concrete day, we're standing tall.
We have our footing form boards set, leveled, squared, and backfilled against the forms. Now it's time to start putting rebar inside the forms to reinforce the concrete footings. For that, we're using number 4 or 1/2 inch rebar, 2 pieces of rebar in the footing with a 4-foot piece of rebar coming vertically that will go into the stem wall, and that will tie the footing to the stem wall when we pour it.
Concrete day, we're standing tall. Through the sweat and strain, we'll never fall. Each line we draw is a promise made. Together we'll shine, we're unafraid. Every drop that falls is a step we take. building our future, not just for our sake. In this moment, we feel so.
And that was quite the adventure that we actually were not able to capture, unfortunately, because
It was all hands on deck.
it was just the three of us, and it was a tight space for the cement truck to get into, and so we had to pretty much pull concrete from the chute all the way down 30 feet on each side, because he couldn't necessarily get all the way back to pour out that footage. And so that was super busy.
That was very busy, and then there was a surprise rainstorm. Like, it wasn't supposed to rain that day.
Like a torrential downpour surprise rainstorm. So we had, it was crazy.
It was crazy.
We were all three soaking wet and still needing to try to go out and finish get her footer screeded. And then we also had 2 little porch pads poured at the house.
With the extra concrete.
With the extra concrete. It was crazy. It was very, very, very rainy.
Didn't get a lot of footage.
No.
And the finish on the footer is horrible because it got rained on, but
Immediately. But
it's the footer.
it's the footer.
The
And,
texture will grip better to the stem wall.
yeah. So that was quite the adventurous day. But you know, those are things memories are made of.
A lot of memories, a lot of character building.
And just like that, concrete's done. Yeah. Okay, so back to the house. We installed the ducting for the hood vent. So how did that go?
That went pretty well. We have a range hood that's going to go in when we build our kitchen cabinets. But in order to run the duct for that hood outside, we had to go through the attic space. And so that had to be done before we insulated the attic. Otherwise I'd be, swimming through the blown in insulation trying to run the ductwork. So we got the ductwork for both bathroom vent fans,
Right.
ran out to the soffits, where when we do our soffits, we'll put, vent terminations there.
Mm-hmm.
But then we also ran the 6-inch line from the vent hood out to the soffits as well. So once again, we're using the Lascaux laser to find our plumb line here at center of our stove, so we can do our ductwork coming up from the hood fan. So we've got the center line of the laser on our center line of our stove, and our cross line is squared off with the wall. So we know that we're coming right up in here. And so right here is where our 6-inch ductwork is going to go up into the attic space. So I'll just cut a hole. Okay.
I'm looking at our list
So we don't forget anything.
so we don't forget things.
One thing we need to talk to you about is the intruder that we caught on our Rio Link security camera. So
It was pretty exciting.
yeah, we were laying in bed one night and we saw the light come on the security camera.
Which was creepy because it looked like someone like holding a flashlight up in the woods.
Yeah.
And that, when Jeff's like, look at that. And I was like, oh, it freaked me out.
I figured one of the kids were heading to the laundry room to do a late night load of laundry.
I was thinking a creeper was standing in the wood shining his flashlight.
But we were able to make out the shadowy figure of a huge moose. It was a huge moose. And she didn't like it when the light turned on, so she kind of started moving along, and then she really didn't like it when we opened up the window to see her. And so she took off. But we got a little bit of footage of her in the last glimpses from the Rio Link camera.
That was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Because we've seen quite a bit of wildlife, but not anything that significant on our property.
Yes.
And so close to like
We've seen moose poop, we've seen moose footprints.
Yeah.
So we know that they've been on our property.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've seen a moose on the property.
This was still kind of it was definitely in the fall, but we definitely put some gravel on the apron in front of the garage.
Yeah, as soon as the garage floor concrete was poured,
Yeah.
We knew that we were ready and needed to gravel the apron
Right.
because winter is coming.
Yeah, and
And we didn't want a
also-
big mud hole.
No, we didn't. We didn't want a big mud hole in the spring as well when all the
everything
thaw
thaws,
happens.
yeah.
So we got fabric down and we got gravel on the fabric and got it spread, and
Yeah, so we brought in 3 more loads of gravel, got that spread around.
probably could have used one more load.
Probably could use one more load, but I was actually very pleased that the approach to the garages weren't as steep as it was looking like it was going to be
Yeah.
before we dug our footers for the house.
Right.
Before we had dug our footers to the house, it looked like it was going to be a pretty steep slope,
Into the garage.
and we were going to slide our
Right.
car right into the garage on icy days.
You better hope the garage door opens fast.
So getting the garage floor poured brought that elevation up, and then giving time for that to settle, and then putting gravel on top of that, on top of fabric, really made that approach look really nice.
Yes. We also had to, it seems small, but actually pretty big. We also had to spray foam all the holes we made
Right.
in the house.
Yeah. So we had a fair number of penetrations from the house down into the crawl space. So we didn't want cold air from the crawl space coming up into the walls, and we also didn't want rodents
Yeah.
coming into our walls. So spray foaming all of the wire penetrations and pipe penetrations was an important step that we needed to do
Yeah. Before we closed all the
before we
walls
closed
up.
in the walls. Done.
I think the final thing we had to do before we actually moved on to drywalling the ceiling was assemble the drywall lift.
Yes. So we splurged and saved our marriage. Last time you saw us hang drywall, Jared was here.
Yes.
And he was able to help hold the drywall on the ceiling when we did the apartment.
Yeah.
As we screwed it into place.
Yeah.
But we knew with the amount of square footage of ceiling we needed to do and how frustrating drywall can be, we wanted to give ourselves the best opportunity to have fun in that horrible situation. So we bought a drywall lift that will go to 16 feet.
Yes.
None of our drywall is going to be 16 feet high.
No, but we were thinking ahead to when we do the kids' house, and they both want to have a loft in their house. And so we needed a lift that would go higher than the standard 9 feet.
Yeah.
So, it was a good investment. It wasn't a fortune.
It was cheaper than renting it because
for
we used
sure.
it for multiple days.
Yes, for sure. So, and I actually, it was I feel like it was a great purchase. It was.
Yeah. Yeah. So the kids' house that they're wanting to build has a loft, but then that's only half of the house, and so the other half will be just an open vault, which will be
Really tall.
more than 9 feet high.
Yeah.
And so having the lift that goes 16 feet
Right.
will be very nice.
Yeah.
But we will get to the drywall video shortly.
Yeah. So,
And I think we got pretty good at hanging drywall.
I think we did.
All right. Last thing. Time for drywall. Yay.
Okay, so that is kind of the wrap up of all of our little odds and ends projects, and you can kind of now see how those don't really fit all together in a video, and we didn't want to make a bunch of tiny little videos that didn't make sense. So that we're now pretty close to being caught up, which is really exciting.
Pretty close.
And you guys will get to start seeing a little bit closer to where we actually are in this house build. And yeah. So.
Yeah. For those of you that have made it this far into the video, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Remember to like this video, share it with your friends, and make sure that you're subscribed and getting notifications so that you know when new videos are uploaded.
Yeah.
But as a bonus, for people that have stayed this long, what secrets could we tell them?
Oh,
I have one.
okay.
So we have one of our secrets, or one of our secret plans that we haven't shared with you yet, is that we are going to be finishing the rest of the house in phases. So instead of having 3 months of drywall videos, we might just have 1 month of drywall videos.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. No, we're going to, once we get the ceiling put on in the entire house, then we're going to focus on areas that will allow us to move into the house once we have to winterize the bus.
Yes.
Which phase are we going to focus on first?
The phase we're going to focus on first is the master bedroom side. So we'll get our bathroom and closet and bedroom done, and that means like done to completion. So drywall, sanding, painting, molding, and floor. Mm-hmm. And so that is exciting to me because we actually get to see something get pretty. And that's kind of my area, is the decorating side. So I've had all these ideas that I'm just waiting to put into action in the house, and we're finally getting close to that. So that is...
Do you think you're ready to reveal our color palette?
I think I could reveal the color palette.
Okay, well, what are the colors that we're doing?
Okay, so we are going to do, on the walls, the majority of the walls are going to be a color called chic gray. And as we put up drywall, we've discovered that it's probably could be called drywall gray. But that doesn't sound very exciting. So they called it chic gray.
Which is basically this color right here.
It really is. I didn't know that when I chose it. I was looking for something bright with some gray tones that wasn't completely white. And so anyway, but that's what it is. And then our cabinets will be kind of a medium gray color with a really pretty, kind of a dark foresty green will be the island. And then, in our room will be kind of a deep blue will be one of our accent walls. So the house will be decorated in kind of blues and greens and grays. So I'm pretty excited. That's a new, other than the gray, that's a new color palette for me. We did green in the bus, and I've loved, actually one of the reasons I'm doing green in the house is because the green has been a really good neutral. It looks great in all seasons. In spring, in the fall, it goes great with oranges and yellows. And then of course in the winter, it goes great with reds and blues and all that stuff. So I'm super pleased with it. So we're kind of copying the bus color scheme, but adding in blue. And then the trim will be a lighter wood tone. Had some fun playing with my stain colors and trying to make pine look not so yellow.
Andy's got some tricks that she'll show you as to how to keep the wood from yellowing when you apply stain and finish to it.
Yeah, and to keep it a little bit more of a neutral brown, which is what I was going for. So
stay tuned.
Because it's about to get pretty.
It's about time.
It's about time. Tired of brown walls.
Oh, come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh,